NAIA football is the true version of what college football is supposed to be. And it is the best classroom experience an 18 to 22-year-old male can have. One of the most valuable parts of a college education is that experience. It's life in a microcosm, and it's just something special for a young man to have to experience.
And don't you let a moment go without thinking about what's there for you to reach out and grasp.
Welcome into NAIA football with Dannelly and Donley. I'm your host, Jason Dannelly, bringing you another weekend's worth of NAIA football recaps, previews, prognostications, and a whole bunch of stuff. Boy, we had ourselves an interesting weekend with several teams in the top 25 dropping games. Now, albeit they were to other teams in the top 25, but nonetheless, it was great football, including one major upset that we will get to here momentarily as we talk about number 2 Northwestern getting knocked off by Concordia University of Nebraska. As I said in the intro, I'm Jason Dannelly, the guy from the Victory Sports Network, the guy that actually knows football a little bit and has been on now 25 episodes. Are we on? I think it said episode 25 is what we're 25. On now. Yeah.
It's like a celebratory episode?
Yeah. What is that? Paper or gold? I don't know. What's 25-year anniversary?
Don't know.
You got to worry about that before I do.
Yeah. I'm at 15. 15.
Oh, you've got plenty of time.
Yeah,
He's
no.
Pat Donley.
Hi.
Pat and I watched a full weekend of NAIA football. Pat did some in person. I was on about 18 different streams. And needless to say, there's some games that were pretty interesting. You were live at one of those that we'll get to in a little bit as you saw Taylor and St. Francis. Your quick 8-second synopsis of that game. What'd you see out of that one?
Well, I think Taylor's the real deal. I do. They lost in overtime to Marion, another great Mid-State Football Association team. St. Francis, obviously a perennial power. Got some things to work out. There's no doubt. There's some issues there. 7 touchdowns you give up in the run game to one player. Taylor kind of did what they wanted to do. They played strong defense as well. I will tell you this: I'm going to put money on this, Jason. Taylor, I'm not sure they beat Indiana Wesleyan the week after next on the 12th, but I'm telling you what, I bet they don't lose again. I think they're like a 8-2 team this year. They're that good.
Yeah. I think from what I saw, I watched into the first quarter, second quarter, and part of the third. Impressive team, just complete team. Nice to see what they've been able to put together there. And you know me, I'm a run the football guy. I like to see what Taylor's been able to do on the ground. So we've got a lot of games to get to, not just that one. Thanks everybody for checking out the show. If you've got any questions, comments, things that you want to say to us, drop it in the chat. We'll get to it. Oh, hey, look at Chris, silver episode.
Is it silver?
Silver? I think I'm going to take his word for it.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Silver. Woo. Here we go. Just like everything, we're second place. No, I'm kidding.
Silver, yeah.
Yeah, plenty of it on this episode. All right, let's jump into it. Let's jump into the games as they happen, Pat, and give us an opportunity to kind of just plug through them one by one, recapping what happened this weekend. Bethel is starting to make me a little bit more of a believer. I wasn't exactly, high on them, the last couple of weeks here, and a lot of that had to do with the fact they were lacking at the quarterback position. Ben Nixon had gotten injured in that first game. He came out, threw for 213 yards, 2 touchdowns, found Will Secker for a couple touchdowns, and got this game, against Cumberlands. And I'm starting to see Bethel come together. They'll move up in my top 25. I think I had them down at 17 or 18, just based on what their first couple weeks of tape that was out there. But I think they're starting to come around, and I think they are deserving of being in the top 10 right now. It was a nice win that they got over Cumberland's.
Yeah, that was my first question. My first question to you when I saw that score: is this enough for you to be a believer? So you kind of answered that already. So they're an undefeated team, and they can win the games that they're presented with, and they are. And we know Cumberland's is a quality football team, and that's a good win. So they're we're at the midway point here for them and their schedule, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here on out.
Speaking of making people believers, Indiana Wesleyan might have done that just a little bit more this weekend as they take down number 13 St. Xavier 39-7. Mostly just saw statistics on this game, but it's kind of the same statistical breakdown that we've seen week after week from Indiana Wesleyan, limiting teams' offenses, getting after their quarterbacks, and putting up big numbers on offense. Kyle Antoine, 395 yards on 31 of 45 passing. He set the program record that his backup set a couple weeks ago, so at least the starters got the record now. Isaac Smith, 10 catches, 114 yards. Indiana Wesleyan, 7 sacks on Stuart Ross and St. Xavier. They got after him. They've been doing that all year, and if they have a gimme game, I bet you they would like to get that Valpo game back, because this is a team that should be easily sitting 6-0 right now. And seeing what they've done the last couple of weeks, Pat, they might be the best or second best team in the country right now.
I would agree with you. And yeah, the Valpo game is a head scratcher to me. I've not watched that game, and I don't know what happened. They just laid an egg, apparently, because I think I'm going to make a bold statement. I think this is the best team right now in the Midwest, not named Grandview. I think those two are, head and shoulders right now from what I have seen. Watching live stream, I've seen this team in person. I think they're the real deal. I think they're exceptionally well coached. They play physical, play fast, all facets of the game, like you mentioned. I think they're very, very sound and again, coached with great detail, and they don't make mistakes. They're a very, very good team, and they've got some ability and some talent as well. So I think this is a team that is as good as there is, certainly east of the Mississippi, outside of Florida. I'm not going to go into the whole geography.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Yes.
think they're the best team in the mid-states, east or west. I think they are better than the mid-south right now. I think that they're that good from what I have seen thus far. The Valpo thing is a head scratcher. Most people that may not know, that's a non-scholarship FCS. I can tell you right now, Indiana Wesleyan's got a better roster than Valpo. I've said that before. So that's the one that's a head scratcher to me, but it will give them a pass, as it technically was an FCS school they lost to. But this team is the real deal. And I think that the one coming up here in a couple of weeks with Marion will be the major task remaining. But pretty darn good team, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm with you, Pat. Best team in the mid-states, best team, over the mid-south, over the heart. I would say the GPAC has a little bit of an identity crisis right now. I would put them over them as well in the North Star and KCAC. So Indiana Wesleyan playing really good football. The game that you were at, you saw Taylor take down St. Francis 58-36. Jamison Chesser 25 carries, 138 yards, 7 touchdowns in this game. 98 yards for DRC, the wide receiver. They outgained USF 585-430. They're moving the ball in this game, but USF just couldn't keep up at the rate that Taylor was getting the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, USF made plays. I'm not, they had 430 yards of total offense. They scored points. But Taylor just incredibly efficient offensively. We'll start with that. Their system is unique. There's no doubt. It's preparation issues for people. And I'm going to throw it out there. If they're an 8-2 team, they'd be a nightmare as an at-large. I'm just telling you, because they are well coached. Their offensive scheme is a nightmare to prepare for. It is option-based, primarily from pistol or the gun. But it is true triple option. They have someone in the pitch phase all the time in their option game with RPO along with that. Complementary play action to take shots down the field, which they did very, very well against USF. They're not just like what you would consider a triple option team like an Army or Navy, Air Force. They have some balance to it. They throw the ball pretty darn well. If St. Francis would stop them, stop the dive play on first and first down and second and 10, they'd run some type of sprint out pass and complete it for 14. They have no hesitation to throw the football. Very, very impressed. I've watched them. We watched them against Marion last week, and arguably had opportunities to win that game. Certainly, they went for it. Went for 2 in overtime to win that game and fell short. Then turn around and come back. And I thought that was an advantage for St. Francis. I think an emotional loss for Taylor last week, and you couldn't tell it. Great homecoming crowd down at Upland, Indiana, with Taylor alumni base. There's probably 3,500, 4,000 people there, Jason. It was great atmosphere. And they came to play and they came to win. Very impressive. On the defensive side, love to shout out my buddy, Coach Bodie, did a great job down there. Just preparation. They've got a really good pass rush, Jason. They've got some guys that get up the football. They run well to the ball. They got a linebacker who I recruited who might be one of the best guys in the NAIA. Avon Jones, heck of a ball player from down here in Indianapolis. He was a senior. He was a National Player of the Week a week ago against Marion. He's the real deal. I mean, I knew he was 4 years ago. I recruited him. We lost him to Taylor. So they've got some guys. They're well coached. They play very hard. And when you put the home, I always said they're at home, they're even tougher to play against because that was a great atmosphere yesterday. And they won the football game. It wasn't like St. Francis blew it. They won the football game. They outplayed them. They were more physical. They won the situational battles in every facet of the game. They won it. So you got to tip your cap. It is the second time in 26 years Taylor's beaten St. Francis. So,
wow.
It's a long time. 3 in 27. The first year of USF football, they did win that game with Coach Wilt we mentioned last week. So only twice in 26 years. This is number 2. So you got to tip your cap to Taylor Trojans.
Yep. Congratulations to Taylor. A great win. Keep on getting things done. They might see themselves in the postseason. They're going to have to get some love in the NAIA top 25 from the Raiders to get themselves there. Unless, we got to watch out for that Indiana Wesleyan game. I was playing really good. It's scary.
They got a week to prepare, Jay. They got a bye week next week.
Well, it's coming up pretty quick, so we'll get some questions answered. The other game on the screen, Baker over Missouri Valley. Bring this one up because Baker in this game trailed. They were down 13-3. They scored 23 unanswered to get the win, 26-16. So this was not an easy win for Baker, who was coming off of a couple weeks here where they've had some issues and had the loss to Benedictine. Quarterback in this game was actually Sam Hageman. Truman Julesgaard did not play in this game. So Hageman was, running the offense. And, you get a new person under center, not the guy that's been starting the last couple years. You have those hiccups at the beginning of the game. They were able to get worked out by the end, but Baker comes away with this win to keep themselves on track in the world of NAIA football. Now we get to inarguably one of the bigger upsets that we have seen in NAIA football in the last couple of years. The Concordia Bulldogs come away with the 27-17 win on the road at Northwestern to knock off the number 2 team in the country. Concordia's defense was stout in this game. They limited Northwestern to just 253 yards. Their quarterback, DJ McGarvey, as you can see, 173 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Austin Jablonski, who was an All-American wide receiver last year, 106 yards and a score for him. Concordia's defense was stout in this one, Pat. And I think one of the main characteristics of this game, why it went the way that it did, they're getting pressure on the quarterback. And, the starter, Gross, threw a couple interceptions. And then you could see in the third quarter, and they didn't, and I didn't catch this on the stream, and I haven't followed anything up, but you could see he got sacked in the third quarter, taken down. And it's not a real great shot on the stream, but you could see him get up and limp off. And then after that, their backup quarterback was then in for the rest of the game. And this wasn't anything new, for Colby Duncan. Colby Duncan has played the last couple weeks. Gross was out a couple weeks ago, due to injury. So the 2 young freshman quarterbacks were, piloting things for Northwestern in this one. They ended up throwing 4 interceptions. And I think anytime you turn the ball over 4 times to a good defense and an offense that can put some points up, they come away and they end up getting the upset here. So congratulations to Concordia, one of the bigger upsets that we've seen in NAIA football in the last couple of years.
I was going to ask that question. Is this one of the biggest ones that you can remember in the GPAC especially, and maybe nationwide in the last handful of years?
Yeah, especially in the GPAC. That usually, the GPAC has always got, a Morningside, a Northwestern, somebody like that up top, in years past, Sioux Falls, Dort now being up there. But when there's that upset, it's usually by the other team that's rated high in the GPAC. And in this scenario, an unrated team comes in and gets the victory. So it definitely one of the biggest in recent memory. I think if I go back, Concordia may have actually done it a few years back when they were making their postseason run. I want to say they knocked off a Sioux Falls in 2002, possibly, or it's been a while. It's been a while since.
You make it sound like it was not long ago. That was a long time ago.
It was a very long time ago.
20 years ago.
I did not have gray in my beard at that time.
No, we were young.
Yes, but yeah, Northwestern, they got young quarterbacks. Their defense looked pretty good. They got put into some precarious situations. I'm not, out on Northwestern because of one loss. They're going to drop the coaches. We'll probably move them from 2 down to 8 or 9. They're still going to be in good position for the postseason, but it does start to bring up what I talked about in the preseason, Pat, about the GPAC. My preseason picks were Morningside to win it, Dordt second, Northwestern third. And I got a lot of grief for that. And this was kind of what I was getting at. I don't care how great your defense is. At some point when you have, an inexperienced offense at the quarterback position, they've got a lot of guys back on the line, but there's going to be a time where there's going to be some growing pains. And that's not to say they're not a great team. They're not a complete team. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm just saying, hey, mistakes are going to happen. You're going to drop a game or two. They're still going to be in the postseason. If Northwestern does not make the postseason, I will be absolutely shocked. And things from here on out, things just went very wrong. But I just don't see that happening in Orange City.
Yeah, you would think this is going to be something that obviously kind of galvanizes things, and there's 2 ways this can go. I mean, truthfully, I kind of feel the same way about the St. Francis Cougars. 2 ways can go. I mean, either you're in a battle through this and respond with a great effort next week, or let it carry over for another week. A poor performance. So, I mean that's kind of I'm sure the experienced coaching staff, the national championship coaching staff that is Northwestern, knows how to handle this and make this a learning experience and something to learn from. I mean, we talk about our friend Kalen DeBoer. He's dealing with the same thing today. So we'll
talk about that in overtime.
Yeah, it's overtime.
Yeah. Stick around for overtime.
On that goalpost going down Broadway.
Yes.
Holy smokes! What a place.
Oh, gotta love Nashville. But again, Coach McCarty, way too good and way too experienced of a coach. Too many seniors, too many upperclassmen that will not let the bottom drop out on this, but you got to show up and play. In a matchup of undefeateds, it was Campbellsville down in Cumberland by a score 27-14. Nice win for the CU Tigers to get this one. Their D had 2 interceptions, forced a fumble, held Cumberland to just 190 yards rushing, and Cumberland is a running football team. Jagger Gillis, 22-34, 259 yards, 3 touchdowns. Austin Uker, I don't know. Sorry, I probably should learn how to pronounce these things before I start talking, Pat. 106 yards for that young man. How about that? But Campbellsville, undefeated. What a start to these guys. I love it. And Cumberland, great game. You're right there. You're 5-1. Love to see this. This is awesome.
I am a huge Campbellsville Tiger fan. Let's go. I love it.
Let's do it. Jumping on the bandwagon. Yeah.
Guy named Jagger behind center. I love it. I'm a big Stones fan, so I'm on board. I love it.
Running back named Trey Bass. I mean, just 2 syllables. Let's do this.
I know. I feel like if I was gonna be like the cliched bro radio like McAfee and screaming and running around, do all kinds of stuff, I'd go to Campbellsville and have like a jersey or something. Yeah. Like I just feel like I want to do that right now. I just want to be on the bandwagon of the Campbellsville Tigers. So
you have like I
love it.
You'd have like a combo: Rolling Stones, Jagger Gillis, Campbellsville. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Like have like the tiger and half of that like be the tongue, the Stones tongue.
Exactly.
With, Jagger Gillis in the back. Yeah, I'd be on board.
Awesome. I love that. Let's do it.
I think it's awesome. I'm a huge fan. I think it's so cool. I love seeing teams not out of the woodwork. I mean, the Camels had a great program many, many times over their existence, but it's cool to see them back. Good on Cumberland too. I mean, obviously this is a great football game against 2 undefeated teams, and Campbellsville comes out with it, home game, and I love seeing this. I think it's great for the NAIA to see these teams that have been around for a long time, have great starts like this. So I'm excited. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid down there in Campbellsville, Kentucky. Let's go.
I love it. Let's roll. Hey, let's get into the big one for the week. Number 1 versus number 6. Kaiser St. Thomas. What a battle. Hey, I was not at home. I was watching this on my phone to start this game. And I'll tell you what, early on, I'm going, okay, Kaiser's going to put it on them. They got up 24-3, obviously, in the first quarter. You can read. But then St. Thomas's defense really put the clamps down, limited what Kaiser was able to do. Their offense came around in that second half, and they ended up getting the lead in this one, 27-25, before Shea Spencer hit a 70-yard touchdown pass and was able to get this one to that score, 31-27. Fantastic game between these two. For me, in my top 25, I currently have St. Thomas rated number 5 in the VSN top 25. They aren't moving. You have a 4-point loss to the number 1 team in the country in a game that maybe there wasn't a great spot at the end of the game. I'm not going to get into that. Not going to get into a 4th and short and question things. We'll go with the call. But that's how close this was. It was a game of inches. They lost by a couple inches, didn't get the opportunity to come back and maybe have that last drive to pull this one away from Kaiser. Two of the better teams in the NAIA duking it out here. And St. Thomas did show up. They show up a little bit more in that first half. We might be talking a little bit different. But Kaiser comes away with the victory, proving they still belong at that number 1 spot.
Yeah, it was some unique circumstances, the 24-3 start. I thought Kaiser played very, very well. I'm seeing a little schematic change, Jason, out of the Seahawks this year. More in the gun, with Spencer still doing a lot of the same run schemes, just from a different approach. I love the balance still. You still see that from them, which starts the run game and then the complementary play action RPO game. I think that's who they are. They do a great job with that, and then that defense, the speed, the cover guys, the talent with Kaiser is still so evident. St. Thomas just made some mistakes, kind of sleep at the wheel in the first quarter, especially. And then what a great second half. You can see what they're capable of. And then the resolve to come back and make that competitive. And I'm telling you what, the second half, there's no comparison who played the better football game in the second half. St. Thomas, Jason, I think they're a top 5 team. I think they're quality, man. I think these two teams are as good as anyone in the country. And you watch it, and I think if St. Thomas can play a little cleaner game in the first half, like you just said, we're maybe talking about this being one of the bigger upsets.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. St. Thomas is right there with them, going toe-to-toe. They looked much closer to Kaiser this year than what they did last year, in this game against them. One thing I do want to bring up, and, it's not my job to speculate. It's not my job to talk injuries, but it is my job to get people talking about NAIA football. Late in this game, Jaden Meisinger goes down. They have a timeout. He gets helped off the field. Andrew Burnett takes the rest of the carries after that. So maybe a little bit of a, what's the injury situation in the backfield for Kaiser look like? Gets people talking about Kaiser and what that looks like. Now, like every other year, it seems like for Kaiser, they got next man up there. Andrew Burnett is as good as any running back there is in the NAIA, especially in this system. So I don't expect them to skip a beat if Meisinger ends up missing a little bit of time or has to, come back slow from an injury here. But gets the people talking. That's what I'm here for. Get people talking about NAIA football.
No, Burnett and Meisinger are very similar players too, Jason. The scheme doesn't change. The timing of what they do doesn't really change. I think it's going to be the question who the next guy is. Who's going to be that secondary piece after now Burnett potentially taking the role as the main guy. But, obviously wish Meisinger all the best. What a great player in the NAIA and really had a great football game. I thought the first half he was exceptional. He's so physical and does all the little things so well.
Yep. Nicholas Engler, great defensive performance. In the second half here from St. Thomas, he ends up getting the interception, trucks it in from 58 yards out, to start changing that momentum for St. Thomas. He was an All-American last year, heck of a ball player. Big time players come up and have big time performances. Kaiser was doing a good job of double teaming him, holding him down a little bit in this game, but you find a way to make a play, and Engler did that for St. Thomas, but Kaiser just, too much and gets a little bit of an edge in this one. Guess what? Frontier Conference, another great game, another big game, and a game that was won by the home team. So I think we're starting to see a trend a little bit here, Pat. If you are, as I adjust my chair, I have the incredible sinking chair today, by the way. I started up here and I just keep going down. Southern Oregon, goes into Montana Tech. Their offense is flying high in this one. They're feeling good. And then the very first play of the game, Levi Torgerson takes one back from 95 yards out, kickoff return for a touchdown, gives the advantage to Southern Oregon. After that, they played pretty even, I thought, Pat, till the end of the third quarter, where Southern Oregon had a miscue on a kickoff return and fumbled it, gave a very short field to Montana Tech, and Tech came away with points. So you're essentially talking 14 points off of special teams there and getting, a couple other turnovers in there. That's the difference in this game. Otherwise, Southern Oregon, you look at the numbers, 309 yards passing for Blake Asciuto, Gunnar Yates, 139 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. He had 78 yards receiving. Their tight end had 84 yards. Southern Oregon played the game they were supposed to, but you can't go on the road and make mistakes, and they made two very big ones in this game.
Like you said, two special teams errors. You take those two plays away, this is a different game. With that being said, they happened. Montana Tech, made the plays. Very impressed with them. We've talked about it all along. I have sung their praises since the Georgetown game. I'm a fan. I love what they do on both sides of the football. Lander Smith, more of the same, 25 carries, 94 yards, physical. And again, the great balance. I think Thielen had a really, really nice game as well. Big fan of Thielen, excuse me, that's the pronunciation. Love the way he plays the game. You go to the Southern Oregon side, like you said, I think they played well enough in a league game against two top 25 opponents to win the game. But you take those two special teams issues, and the kind of crazy thing is, Montana Tech has the technology to review that play, that kick return in the fourth quarter. That was a reviewable play that they overturned as a fumble. Initially, it said it was down. They reviewed it, and Montana Tech got the ball at 12-yard line, something like that, for another easy score. But it's a great football game. Other than the miscued special team situation, I thought it was a pretty clean game, well coached game, well executed game. I think, and we talked about this in the pre-show, it's a shame that this conference can't get 4 in, because I think there's 4 quality, and I still think Carroll College is the program too. It's number 5 potentially. But these two, College of Idaho, they've dropped a few. We know their quality still. In Montana Western, there's really good teams in this league. It's hard to do what Southern Oregon had to do yesterday. Yep. 3rd week in a row against arguably the top 3 teams in the league, and had to go win back-to-back football games, and 2 of those being on the road. And this one being a pretty far trip, going to Butte. So didn't get it done. And it's one of those things, we feel for them, and, we think the world of them. Great on Montana Tech to pull out a big, conference win against a great football team. But, this conference is it just never bores us. That's for sure. There's going to be 1 or 2 every single week that we can talk about for an extended period.
Yeah. The thing that kills me is you look at all of these, great games against one another, and there's going to be another one in the Frontier. And actually, let's throw up a comment here that we just got. And after 5 weeks, leader at the top of the Frontier Conference is Carroll, who's not even ranked in the top 25, going exactly as planned. Yeah, I mean, that's accurate. Yeah. They haven't lost a game in the Frontier Conference. Everybody else has beat one another up. Now, that's going to correct itself in the next couple of weeks. The great thing is they're going to play everyone. But Montana Tech is going to have another tough one this week. We'll talk about it in a little bit, because they get Montana Western. It's like the hits just keep coming. And you wonder, like, okay, who had the toughest 3-week stretch? Like Southern Oregon, they got Montana Western, College of Idaho, and they go to Montana Tech. Well, then Montana Tech, they had College of Idaho, then Southern Oregon, and now they go to Montana Western. I mean, it's murderer's row up there, and we could talk forever about it, but let's just wait and see how the season plays out and what things look like in the postseason. So the top 25 looks like this. Kaiser going to stay where they are. Northwestern's going to drop. Grandview,
wow,
89-0 in that one, and they did not play a lot of starters in the second half on that one. Indiana Wesleyan got the win. Bethel got the win. We talked about that one. St. Thomas, Southern Oregon. Dort put it on Doane, 38-3. A couple bye games in there. Another bye from Morningside. Culver Stockton, loses to Benedictine, so an easy one there for the Ravens. Texas Wesleyan, 77-0. College of Idaho, a little bit of a struggle early on against Rocky Mountain. Actually trailed in this game 10-7 before they got up at halftime and then held on in that one. But Rocky Mountain, again, they're that 5th, 6th team in the Frontier who's just as good on any given day as the other teams in the Frontier Conference. Rest of the looking at the rest of the top 25, we talked about Tech, Mid-American Nazarene over William Woods. Evangel over Avila, 44-3. We talked about Baker. I mean, either it was a good game in the top 25 or it was there is nothing in between on these. Dickinson and Valley City. Now, being a guy that lives in North Dakota, they couldn't pass, they couldn't punt, they couldn't kick in this game. We literally had, there were 75-mile-an-hour wind gusts yesterday in western North Dakota. There's fires that are happening out there now. So that just an ugly game all around from that perspective. Friends with the victory, Southwestern, Lindsey Wilson over Faulkner in Ottawa, Arizona, against Wayland Baptist, who I will say is an improved team this year. Wayland Baptist is being a lot more competitive in the Sooner Athletic Conference this year. Two teams still undefeated, not in the top 25 currently, Campbellsville and Southeastern of Florida, Pat. We talked about Campbellsville, but Southeastern, they're right there on the cusp, and they get Florida Memorial this week in a kind of all right, let's prove it to someone here.
Yeah, you're going to get Campbellsville in the top 25? Come on, I'm the biggest fan, the biggest bandwagon fan in the country now of the Campbellsville Tigers, the Fighting Tigers.
The problem is there's such a logjam, and all the losses right now are happening in spots like 2 through 15. So none of those teams are dropping out, and nobody like 17 to 25 is losing. So Campbellsville and Southeastern are just two teams that are, odd men out right now. Cumberland was one of those teams, undefeated, not in the top 25 until they lost to Campbellsville this week. But it's going to work itself out over the next couple weeks, but two very deserving teams. That's why I put it up here, because so often we get focused on just who's in the top 25 and, at the top of these conferences. Here's two very good teams in NAIA football right now, Pat, that, going to have something to prove. And like I said, Southeastern will get Florida Memorial here in the coming weeks. So here are our featured games for this week, the ones that I know I'll be trying to keep an eye on. We talked about it briefly earlier on. Indiana Wesleyan and Marion locking it up in Indianapolis for this one. It's going to be a great game for the Knights to prove if they have improved this season to compete with some of the best in NAIA football with Indiana Wesleyan.
Yeah, I mean, this is should be the two best teams. And I know it's an East and West now. It's a weird deal how it works. But they are the two best teams, I would say, in the Mid-States Football Association, East and West. And it's going to prove itself, who is the best this weekend. So I think it's going to be, obviously, it's very pivotal when it comes to postseason, how things are going to shake out. So it's a big one, obviously.
Yep. And the interesting thing for me with Northwestern losing and Indiana Wesleyan being as impressive as they are is will the coaches move Grandview to number 2? Or will Indiana Wesleyan jump them because Indiana Wesleyan has maybe been more impressive? I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked by it. I think the fact Grandview being undefeated and, winning all the games on their schedule will get them there. But I'm not going to beat my fist on the table and go, what are you doing? Like, if they're 2 or 3, that's just where it's going to be, Pat.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be a dogfight. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And playing in Indianapolis is a big deal. Marion is very tough to beat at home. I will tell you that with tons of experience with that. It's going to be a dogfight. There's no doubt. It will be the premier game in the Mid-States Football Association to this point. And it's going to be should be a great football game.
We got Bethel, the Wildcats, McKenzie, Tennessee, going to Cumberland, Tennessee to play this one. Lebanon, Tennessee. Cumberland just coming off of a loss to Campbellsville on the road. They'll get this one at home against Bethel. Bethel has been coming around, like I mentioned, the last couple weeks, and maybe they didn't play their best football in weeks 2 through 4, but they're starting to play better football, and this will be a nice test for them in Lebanon as the Phoenix play host to the Wildcats.
Now, is this going to be the game? If Bethel can win this game to make you a believer? Is this the one?
It's the next one. It's the
next
one
after that.
You got to prove it every game to me. Every game.
Every game.
No, I injuries happen. You don't look good early on. I get that taste in my mouth, and it's hard for me to overcome. And I also look at the other thing too, being like, wow, look at all of the talent that Bethel lost last year, and they're still getting it done this year. But I'm becoming a believer. I'm starting to get there slowly but surely. The Wildcat fans, they don't care. They're like, that guy in North Dakota talking about us. What's he know? He doesn't know the difference between a crawdad and a crawfish. Anyway, sorry. That's different. That's not even that same kind. That's not, it is actually. Trying to think of something, it'd probably be more of a whiskey thing. Like, he probably drinks Jack Daniels and thinks it's Dickel or something like that. I don't know.
Not a bourbon, that's for sure.
I'll move on. I'm just burying myself at this point. Montana Tech at Montana Western. Again, shocker. We have a game of the week out of the Frontier Conference. That is just so unlike them, Pat. And Montana Western had the bye week, an extra week to prepare for Montana Tech. Tech just week after week after week, having to play some of the top teams in the NAIA. I'm giving the edge to Montana Western because of that bye week and because they have this game at home, but will not be shocked if Montana Tech comes away with a win. I think Western, that extra week to prepare and heal themselves up a little bit, that's going to be the difference against Tech, who's just such a physical team.
I don't want to make any predictions of any game in this league. You just don't. I don't want to do it. Yeah, I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm not a gambler. I wouldn't if I had the opportunity to. It's too difficult. And I would agree with you. I think Western, because of the circumstance of having the bye week, Tech just playing a very physical, hard-fought game against a great Southern Oregon opponent. It's no question. Montana Western's at home in, I think, Game 3 now, the new stadium. So, at the new stadium. So, that's going to be a great crowd and tons of energy. And that, that those teams have played for how many years? My goodness, one of the long-standing rivalries, I'm sure, in the NAIA. So that's going to be a good one. And there's no doubt. And we say this every single week. And again, this could just be a Frontier Conference podcast. There's no doubt. We talk about every week, every single game, every matchup, and we do slight some of the ones that probably deserve more time. But there's huge matchups like this each and every week we have to discuss. So this is going to be one of the premier games. Easy for me to say. Premier games again in the NAIA and in the Frontier Conference.
And I picked the featured games of any top 25 matchup is going to get on this list. And then, ones that mean the most in the conference. And every time the Frontier Conference goes to another week, there's another top 25 matchup. So I think Montana Western, Michael Palandry, and the entire crew up there getting a chance to heal up a little bit, get themselves right. Coach Norse is going to get those guys ready. But Montana Tech, man, don't ever count out the ore diggers. Don't ever count out the diggers from Butte, as they like to say. The keep your eye on game. Oh, I'm sorry. So we got the paint bucket game, Jamestown at Valley City State. This game not meaning a whole lot in the North Star Athletic Association at this point because Dickinson is running away with the league and nobody else is catching up with them. But nonetheless, it is a rivalry game where they'll play for the paint bucket, which is one of the oldest rivalries in NAIA football. Then you've got Lindsey Wilson at Cumberland's, kind of that top 25 team with a team that has been scary at times this year, Pat, but just hasn't been able to finish games. Southern Oregon gets Rocky Mountain, who gave some fits early on to College of Idaho last week, and Southeastern is at Florida Memorial. So 4 pretty good games here, Pat. Any one catching your eye or one that you want to talk about?
Shocker, going to the Frontier Conference, Southern Oregon, Rocky Mountain. Because Rocky Mountain can score points, right?
Yep.
In Southern Oregon, we know the type of team they are. You're talking about a gauntlet of games, and now, okay, hey, you got Rocky Mountain now, who is a tremendous offense, can score points. You have to go on the road again to the state of Montana. Not easy if you're Southern Oregon.
No.
And I'm a bit concerned because I want to see this team. I know the quality of team that this is. You watch them, and this is a scary game. I'm just going to tell you right now, just having to go on the road and after this gauntlet, this is going to be a challenge for the Raiders.
Yeah, the one that I've got my eye on is actually Lindsey Wilson and Cumberland's. Shan Housekeeper's team at Cumberland's has been right in some key games this year. They just haven't been able to finish them off. And Lindsey Wilson, they've got that early season loss to Texas Wesleyan. They've been undefeated ever since, rolling right along. I look at the Blue Raiders having to go on the road to Cumberland's. This could be a game that if Cumberland's knocks them off, now all of a sudden Lindsey Wilson has a second loss. They drop a little bit in the ratings, and it's hey, we got to win the Mid-South if we want to make the postseason this year. So that's the biggest reason why I'm saying keep your eye on this one. In the Sun Conference, Southeastern, I think they're the third best team right now in that conference. I think they will beat Florida Memorial, but this is a road game. Strange things happen, but Southeastern is one of those teams that has been playing very good football this year. They're undefeated, and they're going to start getting into that gauntlet of the Sun Conference, having to play St. Thomas, having to play Kaiser here in just a little bit, but they got to get through Florida Memorial first.
Yeah, I was thinking Southern or Southeastern's one of those teams like we've slided just a little bit. I haven't talked a whole lot about. And again, they've got some big games coming up, which we certainly will be discussing this team. But I think, they're an undefeated football team, and this is kind of the start, the Florida Memorial game of some big ones coming up for them. They deserve our attention. They're an undefeated team for a reason and playing well.
That pretty much does it for the show, but that brings up something now since we've got some people in the chat, Pat, let me switch this up a little bit so we can see them a little better. Some errors and omissions. So as I'm told, the wide receiver from Campbellsville, the last name is pronounced Ocker.
Ocker.
They just pronounce it
Yeah.
Ocker. So we got that
Mhm.
one right. A few other comments. We got Indiana Wesleyan fan here. IW with the toughest schedule in the top 5 says a lot. I don't know where that comes from. Northwestern lost. Yep, haven't seen Kaiser or Grandview blow out any top 25 teams because, I mean, Kaiser played the number 5 team in the top 25. And
And they beat
Grandview,
two programs.
Grandview played Benedictine on the road. So, hey, don't get me wrong. Indiana Wesleyan, case for number 1 with a dominant victory over Marion. Hey, I love your passion. I love where your head's at. You're wrong. They will not move to number 1. If Kaiser keeps winning, Kaiser will be number 1. Period. End of story. Okay. And this, I'm not saying this is going to happen. Okay. So Marion fans, don't come for me. But if Indiana Wesleyan beats Marion by 60, they still won't be number 1.
No.
Okay. Yeah, you have a case. You're not going to, like anybody that goes to court, you got a case. Doesn't mean you're going to win.
Nope.
So, no.
And they're not going to beat them by 60, by the way.
No.
But
I just don't come for me.
it's going to be a great game. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. People like to clip things that I say, and I'm like, no. Context. Get the entire context of what I said there. You said Marion would lose by 60. No, I didn't. Stop it.
I'm going to go and check.
Get a vein in my neck for this.
Jeez, bud. I'm going to check the old internet machine here. Is that a night game at Marion?
That I don't know.
I'm going to check it out because
Oh,
even at night, even more difficult. They are good at night. Ted Karras teams at night, I'm telling you, it's a real thing. I swear.
yeah.
Like I have some experience. Or something.
NAIA football after dark.
1 o'clock game. 1 o'clock game.
Wow.
Which doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's going to be a good one. Tune in that one, folks. That'll be a great one.
Hey, Eric Watson, just as fast as you on the internet machine. 1 o'clock game.
Internet machine, the interwebs.
And he's even doing the stream part of this too, you know. He's even like catching this up probably 15 seconds after we're talking. So looks like Eric can become our producer. Hey, we're in overtime, so if you've got things to talk to us about, throw it in the chat. We'll answer it. Pat and I will talk about, you know, many other things, but this is the end of our official NAIA football talk for the night. Unless you have anything else you want to add, Pat, before everything just goes all over the place.
No. Like, was it Harry Doyle and in Major League, and you go to his color commentary? Anything else there for you? Nope.
Dynamite dropping. That's why you're the best in the business.
Best color man in the business there, folks.
Let's see.
No.
Hey, from Chris, halfway through the season, who do you all have as the player of the year? That's a great question, actually.
Can I say something? I'm going to say it's a running back. There's so many great ones. There's so many, yeah. Which is like, you know, something crazy to even talk about in today's game. You know, NFL major colleges running backs is kind of a thing of the past. It's not the 1980s or 1990s where running backs were the most important player on the field, certainly. Now it's been the quarterback for so long, but I think the running backs in this affiliation are the best players right now. That's kind of my feeling watching. And now there's some great quarterbacks. I'm not saying that, Jason, but you have a real argument for the running backs. You know, you can start rattle them all off. There's 6 or 7 of them that are tremendous.
Yeah, they absolutely are. You know, obviously Jade Meisinger at Kaiser, you know, he's going to be one. You got Lander Smith, you've got Gunnar Yates, you know, you've got McQuillan. Yeah, you just keep going through all the names here. Yeah, a running back possibly. If I had to go with a quarterback, and this will be indicative of how the rest of the season goes. You know, if Indiana Wesleyan wins out, you know, has a good run in the playoffs, I could see Cal Antoine, their quarterback, being a guy up for that Player of the Year category. You know, there's a bunch of others, and a lot of it is indicative of, like, I can look at stats and I can look at who the teams are that are doing the best right now. But I make my decision on, all right, how'd you do in the postseason? How'd you do against the best competition? Maybe that's not fair for a really good ball player, you know, that didn't make the postseason, but I feel like the best players in the NAIA end up playing on the best teams and are in the postseason. So I use the postseason as a lot of my evaluation tool as to who's going to get the Player of the Year for the Victory Sports Network. And you know, that's
you have to do that, and especially the NAIA Player of the Year as well. You know, that vote. Typically, it's a team in the championship. Typically, right? Yeah. The rules are still the same. I believe you have to be the Conference Player of the Year, correct, to be eligible for the national.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's going to work itself out. We're halfway through, but I think those running backs, The other one we did not mention, Jason, the great running back at St. Thomas. Goodness gracious, I got a bunch of.
Oh yeah, Rontavious Farmer.
Farmer. Oh yeah, throw him right in there too. I mean, to me, those are the best players that I have seen thus far are the running backs. I would say that.
So I got VS hit me up. They've been talking about, Indiana Wesleyan early on. They did bring up after my diatribe there, Kaiser barely beat St. Thomas. Indiana Wesleyan, I will remind you of this. Don't make me smack you guys. You lost to Valpo. And don't give me this, they're D1. They're a non-scholarship D1. Okay. So you lost that game. Most people in the NAIA, most Raiders are going to look past it because it's kind of a game you throw on your schedule. You're supposed to lose it, but you should have won that game. So let's not talk about they need to be number one if they have a dominant. You still lost to Valpo, a team you beat last year and lost to this year. So sorry.
I just want to bring up one thing. Anytime great NAIA teams have to play FCS non-scholarship teams, which has happened many, many, many years. Off the top of my head, I think Grandview played Drake for years and years and
paid Drake
far out of it.
Yep, Northwestern won at Drake last year.
There you go. Drake just beat Valpo 27-3.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I'm a Wesleyan. I am drinking the Kool-Aid, baby. I think they're great.
Drinking your Kool-Aid out of the Minions glass tonight.
Hey, buddy. I just said, I think I talked to you in the pre-show. I said it early on. I think they're the best team east of the Mississippi, not including Florida. I'm not including Florida. In the Midwest, they are certainly, I think, the best team in the Midwest, not named Grandview. I think they and Grandview are right there, the two best that I have seen thus far. Grandview just doesn't play the schedule. I mean, that's the thing that, we talked about that a little bit too, Jason. That used to be a Mid-States Football Association team where they would play a lot of these same teams Indiana Wesleyan plays. Mm-hmm. But those are the two best teams I have seen, including the Appalachian and the Mid-South included in that. I'm not saying Kaiser, St. Thomas. They're kind of their own deal. But those are Grandview and Indiana Wesleyan, the two best teams I have seen. But I'm still scratching my head at how you lose to Valpo. Yeah. Jason, I mean, again, I'll talk about my experience coaching for, St. Francis teams that were the Final Four, final game, national championship runner-up teams. We pummeled Butler and Valpo. I'm just telling you. Yeah. And arguably, they were just as good, if not better, than where they are right now. I mean, again, if you're going to be a top team in this affiliation, you don't lose to FCS non-scholarship or Division IIIs. I'm just sorry you don't.
Yep. Nope, 100% with you on that. And I could go down the road we've talked about in the past. I mean, you could get a game against Indiana State, and you guys beat them a couple years ago. And after that, then all of a sudden, like the Valpos and the Butlers and all that, they go, well, we're not going to play them. Like, they're going to beat us. We don't want that. We're going to stay in our little conference. We're going to play Davidson. We're going to play Drake. We're going to play San Diego and be in the Pioneer League. And we're going to go 9-1 and then get beat by North Dakota State by 70 in the first round. It's just how it goes with that league. So sorry. I did another comment that got thrown up here. There's do I think Indiana Wesleyan is better than St. Thomas? Yeah, I do. I think.
Do you? I guess real close.
I think so.
I think they might be the closest that I have seen that if they played, you're talking coin flip. I think they're very similar in my opinion. With St. Thomas being, I think, a step faster in certain positions. I think where the game is would matter a heck of a lot. You were talking about a playoff matchup or, if it's a neutral site, maybe way down the road. But yeah, I think they're the two closest teams I've seen. If I had to pick out the two that I think would be the tightest game, that would be my two of the best that I've seen.
Yeah. Nope, I would agree with you. Hey, by the way, fans, thank you. This is great. Love the chat. Love being able to answer questions. Now, here's one I want to get to. Talking point, dreaming here a bit. Donor and or user-funded launch of NAIA College Game Day. Get the leaders on NAIA media there and create more pronounced crowd at said sites. NAIA Game Day, Pat. God, who did that?
Yeah,
who's already done that?
There's a guy.
I'm sorry,
There's a guy that I may know used to do that. College Fans, is that what's called?
College Fan Sports Network. Now,
you didn't have me on. You didn't have me on.
Yes.
I feel like, let's go to the olden days and let's talk about 2009 in the NAIA. When I was a young pup putting on the NAIA Game Day program.
I was, actually.
You know what we could do, since you have me now, not that I am that big of a draw, I can bring one of my dogs. We can have kick field goals for somebody's pocket change.
Yeah.
All these nonsensical things that all these programs are doing. I can do those things, we can put, hey, you can win Pat's money, the change in his pocket. You know, McAfee's giving out like 75 grand, whatever he's giving out. That kid hit one yesterday too, by the way.
He did.
Yeah,
$700,000 kick. Crazy. So
cool.
for those of you that aren't familiar, and Todd, that is a great question. I would love to see that happen again. But back in the original days of the Victory Sports Network got bought by the College Fan Sports Network. They brought me along with that, and they wanted to create an NAIA atmosphere. So we had the College Fans van, and we drove around the country. We went to an NAIA game of the week every week. We did a pregame show live from NAIA sites week in and week out for an entire year. I think we did something like 16 or 17 sites because there was Thursday night games. We were traveling all over the country, sleeping in a van, putting on these preseason games, pre-games before the game. Had a whole crew, cool crew. There's actually a documentary I put together on this that's on my YouTube page. It is a hidden link that I should share with you, Pat, so you can see it.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things where I really wish some of the people that used to work for me weren't in jobs that some of the things that we said they could get fired for 15 years later. Like me. Yeah, I don't want to get my teacher friends canceled, but the people from that. So like Brandy Benson, who absolutely loves your father, by the way.
Yeah, she's great. What's she doing?
Fantastic. Now? She is a teacher. Media arts and all that. She's a fantastic teacher. Wade Tracy, also a teacher. He was part of that crew. Tony Kutra is in Wichita with his family, doing a bunch of media things behind the scenes. John Thayer is the play-by-play voice for the University of South Dakota. He got that gig. Brett Beechner, who was on that behind the scenes, he went on to coach at Ottawa and then ended up at North Texas and then was at Mississippi State and then Florida. And he is currently the offensive coordinator for Avila. Kind of moved back home, got the wife, the kids, that whole thing going on there. So it was an awesome time back in 2009. A much younger Jason certainly enjoyed doing that. In a perfect world, I would love to do it again. But there's a reason why the College Fans went out of business. And why I stopped doing the Victory Sports Network full time. And that is because there is just no money in doing this. That is why this is a hobby. Pat does this for free. I do this for free. And we appreciate each and every one of you fans coming on here. So great question, Todd.
Great question. I have a funny one for you too.
Yeah.
So we have some fans. We've got 14, 15 fans of the show. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we got a baker's dozen. We got a baker's dozen.
We've got more than that. I'm, of course, being facetious, but I did have someone come up to me at a football game recently and said, "So you and Jason, so this is like a big deal, huh? Like you guys are yeah. So you're making some revenue." I go, "No, hey,
no,
we'll take sponsors. Hey, I'm on board.
Yes,
we are. Of course, I'm speaking for you. This is your business. But,
yeah."
We'll take sponsorship certainly, but no, this is a passion project of yours that you invited me to join, and two friends can talk football for an hour is what it is.
Yeah, and I'll be very honest. Would I love $1 million sponsor and this becomes a thing? Yes, but I'll be very honest. The realization of this is I'm always going to have. Well, hopefully, I'm always going to have the current job that I have. I love the actual job that I have and that I do, but a $10,000 to $15,000 sponsorship of this program of the Victory Sports Network could go a long ways to take care of some expenses and allow then for some travel to some games and the stuff like that. So it's certainly, it's not beyond it, but like you guys are making some revenue. I
know that was serious too. He's like, man, you guys I want to pick your brain, maybe how I can start something up too. I'm like, yeah, man, you're talking the wrong.
Have a good full-time job and an understanding spouse. That's how you do it.
Exactly. I have a full-time job. My wife lets me do this for an hour, on the Sunday night where the kids are getting ready for bed. That's basically what this is for me. But I do enjoy watching the games and talking to my buddy.
Todd had the nice question. He was playing in the old NCAA back then, so he wasn't. He wasn't around then. Let's see, 15 years. Time for a revamped version. Hey, I would be all about it, but I got a 15-month-old at home, and I gotta make sure that this would actually be something that would.
This would have to be a StreamYard production as well. There's no way
Yeah.
you and I can get together every single week. We're
Yeah.
guys in our mid-40s with pretty demanding careers and families, and as much as it would be great, and if I was like, we like Herb Street and Corso and those guys that get PJ'd everywhere across the country, sign me up, but not quite that way. I'll take their salaries too.
Yeah, and I'm also old. Like, I have a real job during the week. Sometimes on the weekend, I'm like, dude, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm barely going to watch these football games.
With that being said, though, Jason, I would love, there's two things I'd like to do for us to hang out again. I'd love to go to a playoff game at some point. A really big matchup game or sponsorship, maybe it'll make that work. Maybe the national championship game, to meet up and cover some a little more in depth of the big game, or definitely the AFCA convention.
Yes. AFCA is in North Carolina this year.
Charlotte. Yeah, so you got
in Charlotte.
Yeah, you got the game in North Carolina, and you've got the old AFCA this year in Charlotte, which to me is not my favorite town for the AFCA.
No,
but I make it work. They have beer there too.
Well, yes, the beer is cold. What is your favorite town for? If so, inside baseball, inside football talk, actually. AFCA, whenever we refer to that, that's the American Football Coaches Association annual convention. They have it in a different spot every single year. I think I met Pat before that, but AFCA, you can kind of let loose. You get around with the other coaches, you have some adult beverages, you have a good time. What was your favorite site for the AFCA?
Well, there's a lot. My very first was New Orleans, that they don't go back to for obvious reasons. I don't think anybody went to conferences. I think the same reason they don't go to Las Vegas. But those are the two. Yeah. So New Orleans is my very first one. I was a young kid and went and had a blast, and probably spent way too much time on Bourbon Street as a 22-year-old, I think, or 23-year-old, maybe at the time I was. I'm a big San Antonio guy. I like the culture there. I like the obviously nice weather in January because the AFCA convention is after the football season. So essentially you have every college football coach in America, plus vendors, plus media types, go to this event during the Division I national championship. So that time frame, the early January post New Year's Day time that they're down there. So it's always, rough where you and I have always lived. So from a weather standpoint, so it was always cool to go to, I enjoy Dallas. Dallas is a lot of fun. You and I had a lot of fun in Dallas a few times.
We had a lot of fun in Dallas. We had a lot of fun in Nashville too. Nashville's
the other one I was going to say. I'm not a country guy, but I'd tell you Nashville is one of those.
Oh no, it was Louisville. It was
Louisville was fun because that was
Louisville.
Supposed to be in Nashville, and I think they double booked conventions.
Yep.
And you and I spent a lot of time. That was we kicked off our friendship in 2004.
Well, I think just to tell you how great things were going for the Victory Sports Network back in the day, I would usually bum a ride with a coaching staff wherever this was at, drive across the country, and then sleep on the floor of another coaching staff's rooms that their school paid for. And that year, I was on your floor. Because
what floor were you? Because you were on my floor one time in San Antonio, I think too.
Yeah, it's highly possible.
Times. Yeah, it's
highly possible.
It all runs together.
Well, for the person that will remain nameless, so you had a bed, the other person had a bed, I slept on the floor. You handed me 2 big wax things and said, you're going to need these. And I'm like, what are these for? And you're like, your ears, when he snores, and I'm not saying Pat, I'm saying the other guy in the bed, when he snores, you will not be able to, he will rattle the windows. And I was like, I'll be okay. And then I'm like, about a half hour in going, where are those wax pieces to put in my ear? Oh my Lord. I've never been around a human being that snored as bad as that man.
Yeah.
Not that man, but the person in the room.
I snore to some level, but I'm like an amateur. Anyway. Yeah, we had some good times, but those are the two things. I'd either a playoff game, maybe we can even drive to. I don't know.
Yep.
The sad thing is, midway point for us, I'm not even sure what that is. It was like northwestern part of Iowa. I don't even know.
Yeah, Des Moines.
9 hours each way for both. It's not really practical for us to meet up.
No.
But yeah, I would love to maybe boots on the ground for the national championship. The AFCA, maybe because the AFCA, we could probably arrange a couple in-person interviews and just spitballing ideas so we can get some NAIA folks there to sit down with us and maybe spend some time. So
yeah, I would love it. I would love it. I'm contemplating AFCA for this year, just mostly. I used to go every year, and talk to the coaches and mostly just like everybody's gotten the emails from me. I've talked to a lot of people on the phones, but just to, be there and say thanks for their support. Because honestly, if I don't have the support of the coaches at the NAIA level, this doesn't happen. And that was always my biggest barrier to entry the last couple of years of wanting to get back into this, that, there was a lot of turnover in some of the coaching staffs, and there's still 50% of the coaches I remember from when I was before doing this full time all the time. And there's 50% I didn't know. And thankfully of that 50% I didn't know, like half of those guys were players at the time. So, when I call up Kyle Sampson, who I've known since 2004, he was a player, and it's like, oh, but he's an accomplished coach now. So, it's been a lot of fun. We got off track there. Hey, where was that question at? Do you think Madonna gets a win this year? No. I thought Judson, was really their possibility. I don't think the rest of the schedule sets up well for them, but you never know. I mean, they
never know. Don't think so. Boy, I'd tell you what, the worst luck of maybe any college football program in history, starting during COVID. And yeah, it's been a tough go of it for them, and certainly feel for them. It's a great place. I've been there many times, the area, and it's in a nice part of the Detroit suburbs. And, it's unfortunate the kind of luck that they've, or bad luck they've had with everything. But I don't think it's going to be
the biggest thing for Madonna, and I'll use Mayville State as an example here. Mayville State's been around forever, but to be honest, for many years they've kind of been one of the doormats of NAIA football. Well, they're 4-2 this year, and one of the reasons they're 4-2 is because Rocky Larson has been with that program for 5, 6, maybe 7 years now. He's built a culture there, and for programs that are not winners, you have to have a coach that's willing to stick around, become part of the program, be part of the community, and build that thing up. It ain't going to happen overnight at Madonna. Like, they're not going to go from 0-11 to, 8-2 or 8-3 or something like that. Like, they've got to have stability at the head coaching position, and that was part of it. I want to say the guy that started the program moved into administration, and then an assistant moved up, and they may even had another coach in there too. You've got to have stability at the head coaching position.
To go even further with that, Jason, the original coach they hired before they even played a game left before the first game.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. He's a young man. It was a guy who was a part of the Ohio Dominican staff, who's now the head coach of Capital. Brian Foose was there, and he was there for like a few months, and then decided to leave. So even before they started playing, it was just kind of a weird deal. So. It's always been kind of a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. Always looking for questions, seeing if anybody else has got anything out there. We're approaching that 1 hour time spot, so I just want to make sure I haven't missed any questions or comments on any of the social media places out there.
I do really need to get my company Game 1, by the way, out there. If anybody's interested in uniforms, equipment, or apparel, we do everything, head to toe athletes. But we have a ton of NAIA contracts, and I think it's natural for a former NAIA football coach who now works as a sales rep for Game 1 should be sent to the AFCA convention.
Yes.
By Game 1. I'm just saying, I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to talk to some leadership here next week in our headquarters and some big sales meetings. Say, hey, just an idea. There's a couple of us out there, former coaches, that'd be good to have, at the AFCA convention. Just shake hands,
Yeah, somebody in the comments over there, just throw it in the comments. I think it would be great to have Pat at the AFCA convention representing his company. Just put it there. Just any one of you, just say that. Just help him out a little bit. Unfortunately, the business I currently work in has zero tie-in to college athletes. Well, I will say this. So things that we do make, for those of you with grass fields and all that.
Fields, there you go.
There's some stuff we help out there.
There's a couple left.
One thing I've custom made a few for, you've got like the tank on the wheels, like a 35-gallon tank of cold water, and then the little being able to spray the water in your mouth. I can make those for you. I can make you one from scratch tomorrow. I'll do it. I know how to do that stuff. Put a little 4 gallon per minute on-demand pump on there, 35-gallon tank, some nice EVA hose, something that you can, get potable water through. I'm just talking shop at this point. This is what overtime is all about.
Let's go to the AFCA. Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll go. I'll sell sprayer parts. You sell, well, you'll come away with a lot better contacts in that than I will. Oh, got another question. Defiant. Oh, let me put it up there. I like doing this. Just showing the participation. Defiance plays tough games against St. X, then Rose Holman before hosting Madonna. That is MU's only shot. A tired Defiance. Maybe.
Defiance got some players. I thought
Yeah.
they were probably a little better than what would be expected in that transition year to the NAIA. Their roster is more talented than MU for sure.
There you go, Pat.
Sweet. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. See, you know what? I need to bring them to my boss, who's a former NAIA player, by the way.
Is he?
Oh yeah, we've got plenty of in my company.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of you guys you recognize.
Yeah.
Names you recognize. A couple guys that played, up in the Dakotas, and
Yep.
a couple guys. I think there's a Morningside. I'm trying to think. It's a Morningside.
I went through your sales roster like a year ago when you and I started talking about this. And I was like, I recognize that guy. I recognize that guy. I recognize that guy. So a lot of former athletes, a lot of former coaches. So
sure.
It's good company.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Makes sense. Get us there.
Hey, so here's the wild, crazy, not wild, crazy idea. This has already been done by 17 other people. But I was thinking what we should do, Pat, is we should do Victory Sports Network, athletes, like sponsor athletes. And what you get out of it is like a VSN shirt sponsored also by Game One, or like a thing. Yeah, and then like, hey, you're a VSN athlete. You get this.
Mm-hmm. Let's plan for next. We'll plan it. Yeah, absolutely.
We got to plan for we have to actually have some ramp up time on this because we have actual jobs that we have to take care of. So
yeah, unfortunately, I like giving things away, but I do have to sell the stuff to make some money. So
yes, yeah, I know that feeling. Margins matter in the world of sales. Margins matter. And it's been an interesting couple years in terms of being a salesperson, whether that's in the ag industry or whether that's in the sporting goods industry.
Did we talk Alabama?
Oh, yeah. We got to get to that one. Yee.
Tough one. Feel bad for the friend of the program, Kalen DeBoer. Yeah. But tell you what, cool for Vandy. By the way, have you know how far that is from Broadway? It's a long, long way. Those crazy students or fans or whomever carried those goalposts to Broadway from Vandy's campus. It's miles. Campus. It's miles, plural. Like I think I stayed right next to Vandy's campus one time for a hockey tournament, and I'm telling you, the fastest way to get to Broadway was the highway. Obviously, didn't do that because there's so many like interwoven turns and things like that to get to Broadway from that campus. And it's not exactly a hop, skip, and a jump. That they trekked quite a while. Yeah, I'm sure they had some fuel. So some extra
feeling no pain
and carrying goalposts down the street. But yeah, it was pretty cool to see. And I think it's a great opportunity for Alabama to kind of gather themselves and make a deep run, which they're going to. They're a great football program. My goodness, it was unfortunate.
Yeah, that's what I love about the expanded playoff. Now a year ago you're talking like, well, gosh, they're probably done. Well, now okay, they lost a game. They're still going to be one of the 12 getting in there. And you hate to see it, but again, it's kind of like Georgia losing to Alabama gives them a chance to get right, fix some things. Well, Alabama losing to Vanderbilt definitely gives them an opportunity for Coach DeBoer to rally the troops and get everybody right over there.
There were some crazy upsets, though, yesterday, wasn't there? Yeah. I mean, Minnesota beating SC. I mean, you see the crazy travel in those leagues now, I think, are playing a factor. I mean, Miami's a great team. Probably should have lost to Cal late last night. I was staying up watching that game. There's some really good games. Arkansas beating Tennessee. There's some really good games last night. I'm a huge college football guy, obviously, Jason. I love the NAIA, but I love all levels.
I do too, and I love a lot of college football. I love a lot of college football programs until they do in my parlays, like Missouri did at the very start of yesterday.
Missouri,
I was
blew out Missouri. Missouri's been the top 10 program.
Yeah, I know.
Years. Best player in the country. Maybe that wide receiver is saying is a maybe possible first or second pick overall guy.
Yeah.
Gets smashed by the Aggies.
You're not helping at all.
Just got smashed. But the thing is, hey, it was done early. It was done early. First quarter, it was over. My goodness.
If I lived in a state where I could actually chase that bet instead of having to actually go physically to the casino, I could have chased it. But my parlay done. Yeah, no, I gotta.
Really?
Yeah, there's no online here. My brother and I typically go in on parlays because he can. So I'm sending like him Venmos and stuff. And he's like, okay, here we go. And then he's like today he sent me a message. You're bad at this. I'm like, yeah, I know. Thanks.
That's probably a really good thing the state of North Dakota does, knowing your habits, that you actually have to physically go into establishment to place a bet. Because if you had the quick access of your phone, bad for your daughter's college fund.
Well, thankfully, it's a direct deposit that goes in there that I can't get back out. So
There you go. There you
it's
go.
smart. I know
There-
my habits. I'm 44 years old. I know what I've got to do to prevent myself from
Oh, man.
myself.
Well, that's good. At least you know. At least you know.
Yes.
Well,
Hey, this
great
was
weekend of
fun.
football.
This was a lot of fun. I enjoy, all the listener viewer interaction. Thank you guys for checking out the show tonight. Absolutely. If we didn't get to your comment, my bad. Join us next week. We'll be back at the same time, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, to give you an hour or so of talking NAI football. What'd we miss? Anything? Just, reminder some great. Oh, the one thing I didn't bring up. So this next week, Pat. I don't want to say it's a week because there's some really good games, but typically there's 45 to 50 NAIA games played every week. There's only 26 this next week. The KCAC is on a bye. The Heart is on a bye. There's some other natural buys that come in this week. So there's only 26 NAIA football games this next week. So next weekend's program will probably have plenty of time for overtime because there won't be as many games to talk about. Still some great ones that we'll get to, but it is that get right week for a lot of people before they go into their conference play, and you start seeing teams from the AAC or the KCAC starting to take control of their division and get the opportunity to play in the NAI postseason.
Yep. A lot of fall breaks, I think, for colleges. I know my kids, believe it or not, for elementary school have a fall break next week, which is kind of crazy. They get a full week. It's like spring break part 2. Kind of crazy full week. So things have certainly changed. I got no spring break nor fall break growing up. And
Same.
now my kids get 2 weeks total, so one of each. So
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Yeah, spring break for me in high school was you got Good Friday off for
That was it.
Easter. That was
Exactly right.
spring break. Maybe you got that Thursday off too, or a half day on that Thursday, and that was the spring break day, which just meant we had track practice earlier that day, and then I got home to milk cows earlier that day, and then my dad and grandpa just put me to work all weekend doing something. So
There's got to be a time, and I don't know when this is ever going to happen. We're probably going to be old guys, but I've got to go to the Dannelly family homestead in Nebraska. I've got to see this. Now,
yes.
I'm not real excited about the idea of it. I want the idea, actually, I do like when I finally get there and see it. And if they put me to work, I'm not going to be happy.
They won't. We don't have cattle anymore.
Yeah, I just want to see the whole, because your stories, I've known you for a long time, and the stories, and obviously kind of your upbringing and this whole cultural thing that I don't know anything about. Literally, I don't think anyone in my family has farmed. I guess maybe a couple generations ago. I know back in Ireland probably they did, but I know nothing about it. Going to farms here in Indiana, just the smell gets me to the point where I might keel over. So I got to see the Dannelly homestead at the same time. I just want to just check it out, see what how you grew up, because I find it fascinating, the whole cultural thing and lifestyle.
Yeah, you would love it. The great thing is, like I said, we don't have cattle. We don't have a lot of acres that we farm anymore. It'd be a quick trip, and then we'd go look at some other things that I know you would enjoy.
Yeah,
food, drink,
it's shocker,
all that sort of thing. Yeah,
big guys some food.
Yeah,
let's make this NAI game trip at some point. I don't know if it's a playoff or national championship or something. Let's make it happen. Let's work on it.
We got it. We'll absolutely do it. All right, we'll wrap things up. One quick note, our buddy Brandon from d2football.com still going through, the rehab and everything from his stroke that he had early in the summer. There's a couple fundraisers out there. I encourage each and every one of our viewers, listeners, fans of small college football, go to d2football.com or check out their Twitter. The links are there. You can buy some D2 gear. You can support Brandon. Just please do that, because Brandon, it really is like one of the godfathers of small college football, and getting this out here. He's one of the guys, him and Pat Coleman, we've seen what they did for D2 football and D3 football. It inspired me to get going in the world of the NAIA. So you wouldn't be watching this, you wouldn't be doing this without those guys, and especially Brandon Meisner. So be sure to get out there, support d2football.com. Be back here next Sunday night, and always check out victorysportsnetwork.com. Got a lot of articles coming out this week. The Around the Nation coming out. Our top 25 comes out tomorrow morning. Chips Picks is also out tomorrow. We got 2 athlete profiles this week, as we'll profile Zach Chevalier of Morningside, and we'll also do Adrian Parsons of Mid-American Nazarene. All that stuff coming this week on the Victory Sports Network. For Pat Donley, I'm Jason Dannelly. This has been NAI Football with Dannelly and Donley from the Victory Sports Network. We will see you next week, folks. Have a good one. Later.